back. 2023, the Apostles Corner podcast. I'm so excited to be back for 2023. Thank you guys for subscribing throughout 2022, even when we were on vacation and holiday and family time and just rest from school and just writing vision and different things like that, and just kind of envisioning what we should be doing with our lives, in 2023. Thank you guys for continuously being faithful, showing up and subscribing on YouTube, all of our audio digital platforms, for following us on social media, on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and also LinkedIn even. Thank all of you for your communication and wanting to be a part of the Apostles Corner podcast family. I have a new and ongoing co-host that will be joining me. I think two is better than one. Amen. And so I'm excited about having Dr. Kimberly Harris with me today. How you doing, Dr. Kimberly?
I'm well. I'm excited to be here with you as well.
Wow.
For this season of the Apostles Corner. I think it's a really great topic that you've chosen for this season, and I'm just glad that I get to be a part.
Yeah, we was trying to do this last semester, but, our school program, I wanted to stay focused, and God was just leading me to just hold off a little minute. And I think I'm better for it at this point.
Yes.
Sometimes God give you things, but he'll tell you when to execute, and he'll tell you when to slow down. And so he just kind of told me, slow down and just be patient, that let it simmer a little bit. And then when you get ready, you'll be, you'll be ready for it. So let's go ahead and jump in. The Apostles Corner is about real conversations, talking to real people who are living real life. That's what it's about. We had to change the mission during that time, which is another reason why I'm glad God put us on hold, because we believe in discovering God's truth. But I think people are looking for practical answers about things that they're living every single day. Right. And we're spiritual people. We are pastors and all of that, but we also have a marriage, and we're real people. Yeah, we're real lives. And we're just trying to figure it out like everybody else. You know what I'm saying? A lot of times people think, well, you got a platform, or you a pastor, or you a preacher, or you got it all. You got a degree, your degrees or whatever. You smart, all that craziness. But at the end of the day, life hit us just like it does everybody else. Absolutely. You know what I'm saying? And we struggle with ourselves. We struggle with compartmentalizing things and putting things in proper order, place, and disciplining our lives. We sometimes
making decisions that are good for ourselves.
Yeah,
not worrying about how other people feel about it.
Yeah. Oh, that's good. Yeah. So we're already jumping in. We're talking about boundaries. This is going to be an excellent conversation. I don't know anybody else better to have this conversation with this season than you. My daughter just left home and just a few minutes ago, and we had a whole family conversation about boundaries, and now we're trying to add her to the mix, in the show, and at some point, when she gets a break, and my whole family is here. I think that's where we all are. We're at this intersection in our life about boundaries. What are we doing with boundaries? What are boundaries? What does that look like? You know what I'm saying? And so we're going to talk about today in episode 1, the need for boundaries. The need for boundaries. Some people don't think they need boundaries, and that's I don't know if that's smart of them.
It's very unwise.
That's unwise. Very unwise. People don't. I don't think they understand that they need boundaries, and I hope that what people get out of this is the danger of not having them. Like I'm just hoping that they understand there's danger in not having boundaries, like what you subject your life to, and the impact of negative things. Some things are not the devil. Just go ahead and, since we're spiritual people, we're Christians, we are pastors, and all of that. Even prophetic people, we are in the fivefold ministry, but everything is not the devil. Right. Some things we let in.
Most things.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Most things we let in, we choose it. It does not always mean that it's choosing us. We make room for it to come in and destroy our lives and destroy our peace and even destroy our productivity. And so let's just get started, because I know you sitting on, on let's get it.
Just
You know what I'm
following your
saying?
lead today.
Let's get it. You know what I mean? And that's cool. I like it. The author Nedra Glover Tawwab, we reading her resource. She said in her New York Times bestseller, Set Boundaries, Find Peace. She said, healthy boundaries. We all know we should have them in order to achieve work-life balance. We have to have them to cope with toxic people and enjoy rewarding relationships with partners, friends, and families. But the question is, what do healthy boundaries really mean? And how can we successfully express our needs, say no, and be assertive without offending others? I want, before you answer, I just want to ask that one more time for the audience to make sure that they understand the question, because this question is loaded. I mean, it's like really loaded. But what do healthy boundaries really mean? And how can we successfully express our needs, say no, and be assertive without offending others? Now go.
I think first you have to have the right perspective on boundaries. I think that's why a lot of people feel like they don't need boundaries, is because they don't really have a healthy perspective about what a boundary is. Because sometimes people look at boundaries as an unloving thing, a wall that you're putting up to keep me out or to keep distance from me. And really what boundaries do is it helps you to form those more intimate relationships with people, because sometimes you end up with, when you don't have boundaries, you have to push people out by necessity, because the relationships become unhealthy, and then they have to become distant. But I think having healthy boundaries, so you have to look at it the right way to start, because if you don't know what a boundary is for, then you'll think it's a negative thing. So boundaries are less about keeping people out, and more about keeping ourselves in, and not necessarily in a way that of isolation, keeping myself in.
Not a prison.
Right. But keeping the parts of me from being just dispersed out to everyone.
Everybody, yeah.
Because when you don't have boundaries, you're losing pieces of yourself all over the place.
Yeah.
And you have nothing to hold you together.
Yeah.
And you can think about it like this. I'm sure you've heard, and we've probably said, I'm losing myself in him or in her or in this or in my job. Well, you're losing yourself because you don't have boundaries. What you're really saying is, I don't have the appropriate boundaries, healthy boundaries set up in my life in order to be able to hold those pieces of myself that I need in. You can share yourself in relationship with one another. You can share yourself, your skills in your job. You can, but to give yourself away to the degree that you're not being able to be, you lose yourself, that is really saying, I don't have healthy boundaries in my life. And so it's important to know what your boundaries are, what they should be, before you can express them to someone else. And you have to actually have you won't know the dangers of not having boundaries until you learn to value actually having boundaries and the benefits that those things have.
And the way you express them, you have to be careful how you do that too, because assertive doesn't necessarily mean being mean.
Right.
And that's why sometimes people take our boundaries the wrong way. We create that by feeling like, and we'll learn that even later on in the conversation, if we get to it, we'll learn that sometimes people, the way they say it, they have to be all loud and yelling and screaming, and it's really just saying, just get off of me, when really you could just say, this is what I'm going to do, this is what I'm going to allow, this is what I don't want to allow. You know what I'm saying? And then say it in a loving way, because you want people to honor and respect your boundary, not feel threatened.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? Because it's a different than it is a difference in building a boundary and building a wall.
Right.
And so walls is what you were talking about, keeping ourselves in. When we're keeping ourselves in, we talking about wholeness. We're not talking about hiding.
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
Because you can have boundaries and be in functional, healthy relationships with people. You can share your life in relationship with people. But like I said, you're not losing who you are while being in those relationships because of the boundaries that you set. You were saying about, assertiveness. Assertiveness is not is not determined by your voice inflection or
Right.
how loud you are or your, having an angry, irritable spirit.
Right.
That's not assertiveness. Assertiveness is meaning what you say, saying what you mean,
Yeah.
expressing yourself clearly,
Yeah.
and then being unapologetic about
Right,
it.
right.
Like, don't apologize for making a boundary or setting a boundary for yourself. Like, oh, I'm sorry I have to do this, but no, I'm not sorry I have to do this.
Right.
Because this is something that's healthy for me, and it's also healthy for the person that you're in relationship with, because it helps to. So think about boundaries like, boundaries are kind of like your skin on a body. A body without skin is like a person without boundaries.
Yeah.
Your skin is an organ. It's the largest organ in your body. It has a very specific purpose, and it does a lot of things. It's a protective layer. So yes, boundaries are protective, but it's a healthy protection.
Yeah.
It keeps things in that
Yeah.
need to be in, because our body is largely made up of water. We don't need that coming out, but it also keeps things out. It keeps bacteria and germs and things out that can be harmful to us. Same thing with boundaries. No, it isn't to create a distance, but it will keep things out that are supposed to be out. And it also, if you break your skin, then that you break the barrier there, you break the boundary, and then harmful things are able to get in. Well, then those are things that you have to heal from that you didn't necessarily have to heal from had that boundary never been broken. Right. Because the skin or the boundary has a specific job to do. But it also, your skin allows you to have sensation.
Yeah.
Right. It allows you to detect
That's
heat
good.
and cold and think. So having a boundary in place will allow you to be able to detect certain things that are wrong or right in the relationships that you have.
Right.
When you set a boundary, you really get to know who the people are around you that you're in relationship
That's good
with.
right there.
Say
that again. When you set a boundary.
When you set boundaries and when you express those boundaries in your relationships with people, that's when you really get to know
The
who
people
you're
who are
in
around.
relationship with,
Man.
and how those people really do view you, how they value you, how they see you, and how they value themselves.
Yeah.
Honestly.
Now, I was just looking at this because I part of me want to rush through this, but it's a season, so the season can be as long as we want it to be.
Yeah.
So I'm going to take my time.
Take your time.
And so, with that being said, all of that expression, the last part of it says, without offending others. And then you just said that when you set a boundary, it will let you know who really you have around you.
Right.
When you do what's right and what's best for you.
Right.
And as it relates to boundary setting. I have to be careful in saying that because people do what's best for them out of selfishness, not out of self-care.
Right.
That's different. People look at selfishness and self-care as the same thing. That's not. Selfishness is only thinking about you. Self-care is thinking about me so that I can be better with you.
Right.
You see what I'm saying?
Right.
So it's not me doing for me because I just love me and me only. It's me doing right by me so that I can do right by you, right? Even if that means placing limitations on how much access you have to me.
Yes.
That's not against you.
Right.
That's for you. That's for you and for me.
Right.
Because if you get too close and you're the type of person that triggers something and love to trigger stuff and think it's funny, then we're gonna have a problem. I have to know me and what triggers me. Stay away from that part of you.
Right.
You see what I'm saying?
Or express those things
Yeah.
as a boundary. Like,
Yes.
one of my boundaries is I don't like it when you do this.
Yeah.
And be very specific with that person.
Yeah.
Or I don't like the way that I feel when this happens in our relationship
Right.
or when this happens in a conversation.
Right.
And it doesn't necessarily how people respond, because everybody doesn't know how to respond when people set boundaries, because it's not something that is just widespread and people just do it, freely and clearly all the time. People do more of what you were saying earlier, responding in
Anger
situations that are already hot,
hostile,
and so it's a reactive thing, and really you're not setting a boundary at that point. What you're saying, the words you're saying are things that are included in the boundary that you need to set.
Yeah.
But in the moment, you're not actually setting a boundary.
You're
just
a wall.
expressing what your feelings are in that moment. And those are the things that put the bricks that build the walls that create distance in relationships, and not really the boundaries that bring them together.
So it says, do it without offending others. What happens? And I think I know the answer to this, but I just want to be, I don't want to use the word petty, but I just want, because I think I know the answer to it. That's why I say petty. But what happens when a person is offended by your boundary? Like, I've done things I've been blamed for in my lifetime through some of my relationships that I thought I was sure of. But the moment that I did what I knew that was best for me, all of a sudden I'm being labeled as deceptive, a liar, whatever the case may be, because they felt like one way about me, or they took from me saying something or agreeing to something as basically almost to say, you can have my whole life,
But that's what happens when we don't have boundaries up front in relationships.
Right.
And so then when you try to, two things, and then I'll let you finish your question. When it comes to not without offending others, it's kind of the same thing with when you preach or teach or whatever. You don't do it with the intention of being offensive. But if people choose to take offense to your boundary, there's nothing you can do about that. Mm-hmm. So the without being offensive part is that you do everything you can to express it in a way that is not offensive. Mm-hmm. But someone taking offense just because they don't like the boundary or they don't want to abide by the boundary, or that boundary makes them have to change something about themselves, you are not responsible for them choosing to be offended.
So I'm not responsible for their response.
Exactly.
I'm only responsible for what my boundary is,
and making sure that they understand in a way that's not offensive.
Yeah,
like you know what I'm saying. We know how to be offensive if we want to be offensive.
Right. We know how to be,
and we know how not to be offensive.
Yeah.
But at the same time, you can't. You're not responsible for someone's response or reaction to that. That boundary when it's being set in a healthy way.
Yeah.
You're just not.
And I think the thing is, I think the thing that bothered me about that situation was the fact that, that they, once I did get my feelings hurt, they actually reached back and said, we feel like that we were the reason why you were hurt. But they wanted me to tell them what they did, you know what I'm saying, to hurt me. You right? So it's like, okay, so we're prophetic, we are apostolic, we are powerful, we are all knowledgeable, we got all the words in the world until.
Sometimes you can be all those things and be very immature. And it doesn't matter how old you are, you can still be immature and stunted in your growth in relationships. And so sometimes it's not that when people respond, you know what I'm saying, the wrong way to you're setting a boundary, it doesn't mean that they're terrible people. It doesn't mean, it's sometimes it means that they're not mature enough to handle people having boundaries in their life and sometimes people are envious that you were able to take authority in your life and set a boundary.
And stand up for yourself.
They wish that they could stand up and set in their lives for themselves with other people.
Now that's powerful.
People are accustomed to being yes people all the time.
Yeah.
And a huge word in order to be able to set and maintain appropriate boundaries is the word no. And when you tell people no who aren't accustomed to telling other people no, sometimes that's frustrating for them because they really just want to be able to set boundaries in the same way with other people that you're able to set with them.
Yeah. And that's so real because, it was only recently when I released the guilt for the way they felt about the decision I had to make.
Yeah.
I didn't make the decision because I didn't like them or didn't love them or tried to throw them off. It's just the fact, and we'll learn here today, without clarity in relationships, there is no salvaging the relationship. Now, I feel like what they wanted from me was me to spill my guts and say what I felt just so they could say that I was wrong. When in reality, you were a part of many of those conversations and there was just no clarity I can't roll with you. My anxiety gets high when there's no clarity. You know, I want to roll with you. I want to be down. I want to, I want to show my support. I want to show, but when I feel like there's manipulation involved, when I feel like there, for me, and and the reason why I'm saying more about myself is because you've have to deal with me a lot on setting boundaries, because I've come from a background where we just gave ourselves away.
Boundaries, yeah.
Yeah, there was no boundaries, not in the home. There were no boundaries at church. There were no boundaries nowhere. You come home and there's people laying on your floor. You don't even know who they are. You know what I'm saying? It's just people from all over the place. And then, we just didn't have...
all the lines of your life were blurred.
Yeah, all of them were blurred.
And that's hard. And because you learn to live your life in a way where you don't have boundaries, then people come to, because people observe us, you know, and so people come to have an expectation based on that lack of boundaries. And so then it's hard for them, you know what I'm saying? And the things that you were talking about, like manipulation and those types of things, people who truly are in your life who don't have the best of intentions, or who feel like you can be manipulated to do certain things, will use those lack of boundaries. Because they watch and they see, that, he will, because you're a talker, you're an extrovert, that's your personality. And so you share a lot. And so people come to expect that, that you will share to a fault with them. You know what I'm saying? So
much so they feel like they can make a decision based on what I share. They can make a decision about me based on what I share. And in other words, they feel like, okay, we can go in this close because he just opened up everything. And it's mainly because we know he hasn't had, he's kind of a bastard walking around here, kind of fatherless, he's hurt in the area of, he got a father wound. He's lot of rejection in him, and they take advantage of people like that. As a matter of fact, half the people that, I've noticed and you noticed in the church world, people take advantage of wounded people.
Right.
They take advantage of wounded people. If you're hurt, we're going to take advantage of you. We're not going to help you heal. We're going to keep pointing at your sickness. We don't mind talking about it because that makes you emotional. Emotional gives us the advantage to go on in and plant the seed we want to plant, so you'll be loyal to us. And sometimes what I found out is that you get people close enough to get to know, and you respond like that enough times, then people will break you themselves and then turn around and play like they're the one that's healing you, and they don't understand how you could be so broken. And if you say they are the reasons why they broke you, then they're going to say that you misinterpreted it, and your interpretation is based on now everything in your past. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And so that's, the freedom and understanding that now, I can look back over my life and see, man, if I only just had boundaries.
Yeah. Healthy boundaries.
I would have never said all of that. I would have never done all of that. I never would have committed. But when you lack acceptance in your life and approval in your life, the moment that somebody gives it to you, sometimes they are really the villain, but they come in the spirit of, let me be your friend. Let me be partner with you in life. Let me even partner with you. It happens in ministry. Let me partner with you in ministry. Let me be there for you. Let me pray for you. Let me cover you. All of these things. And then when it's all over, when it's all said and done, they try to make it look like you came for them. And it's not that. You weren't even looking at them, didn't know them. You know what I'm saying? But they've been watching you, just like the devil does, patiently watching, trying to figure out where's your weak spot. And there are just some people, we just don't need to let them know where we weak at.
Yeah.
That's just the bottom line.
The skin, they're looking for the break in the skin.
Yeah.
To get in.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? And you were saying, like, people watch and then they see where they can get in, where they can find your weak spots. It's the same thing, going back to, like, your immune system can be low. You know what I'm saying? And you have to be careful, because we are all vulnerable in a lot of ways. None of us is perfect. And so everything that you've ever been through may not be completely healed, but you cannot hide in a box. You can't hide behind a wall.
Yeah.
That's something different. However, the boundaries help to protect you and let you know. It sends off an alarm when things are when things that shouldn't be too close are getting too close. And when you don't have a boundary, then those things are able to just rush up on you. And before you know it, you're overwhelmed with those things. And sometimes there's areas and there's relationships in your life where you don't see the lack of boundaries. You know, in the book she talks about in family relationships. You know what I'm saying? Because these are the people that you've known your whole life. If you have a older sister or older brother, they've been the person that has, been responsible for telling you what to do or making sure you did your homework or protecting you or fighting your battles or whatever. And then they don't, the relationship doesn't change when they get older and when you're in a space in your life where you don't need them to operate in the same way in relationship with you. So then when you try to set the boundaries and establish those boundaries, they feel hurt, like you're doing something to them or like you don't love them anymore or don't need them. It's just, I need you in my life in a different way.
Wow, that's in parenting too. We'll get out in that.
Absolutely.
Later on, especially we in the empty nesters, we have one child. That's really the conversation we had prior to this show. So we'll get into that a little later. But let me move on a little bit. Let's try to push past this. This is really good, by the way. My definition, I wrote this. I created this definition. Then I'll give you the actual definition, and we'll continue. Okay. My definition of boundaries is really taking care of me first. That's really, that's the main thing. But in detail, it is understanding my triggers, creating a space between that which creates chaos, increases my anxiety, and destroys my peace and my joy. That's what boundaries is for me. Anything that stands between my peace and my joy, then, create a boundary for that. Because I was not created to live in chaos. I wasn't created to live in a heightened sense of anxiety all the time. I wasn't created to be stressed. I wasn't created to question who I am and my identity and who God has made me. I wasn't created for all that. But when you in an environment that creates that for you, it doesn't always mean that you have to leave the environment. You just know how to walk in and among them so that you will be healthy when you go in and be healthy when you go out.
Yes.
Be healthy when you go out.
Yes.
Because we don't always get to choose the environment.
Absolutely.
Especially being called by God to do certain things in ministry. We don't get to choose. We didn't choose generations. Generations chose us. And when I say that, because we started the church, but generations actually chose us. We didn't choose generation. We were choosing evangelism. We was choosing the road. We were choosing, being a consultation group,
doing anything
else other than pastoring. We were just ready to write books and live a life and enjoy life and work. Generations chose us. We didn't choose that. I rebuked the devil when the Lord told me to go to Little Rock. You know what I'm saying? And I didn't see generations. Generations saw me. Right. God knew who He had made me. He knew there was a people that they were there. So since it chose me, I thought I was going into what I understood to be church. But then it only took 10 years for me to get here to realize that the church chose me, and it wasn't my idea of church. I had to reshape my idea. I couldn't be what I saw my father do. I couldn't be all up and through other people's lives and every little moment of their detail of their lives. I had to preach to them, teach to them, get them to Jesus, and remove myself from their lives so they can make the choices for their own life, because I'm not their God, and I'm not the Lord over their life, and I'm not supposed to lord over their life. I'm supposed to obey God concerning them by feeding them, by praying for them, and modeling God's truth before them. At the end of the day, that is all I'm supposed to do. It's their job to eat. It's their job to apply the word. It's their job to follow the leadership and the vision of the house. They have choices.
Right.
They have choice. They really do. They have choices. That sounds crazy, but they have choices. When we see from leadership making demands, that's called witchcraft and manipulation. Mm-hmm. God doesn't manipulate us to serve him. You know what I'm saying? My point is we didn't choose this. God chose it for us. So we don't always get to choose the environment. Sometimes you go into an environment where people are hurting and you're called to heal them. But if you're wounded yourself, the first thing you're going to feel about their wounds is that they're trying to wound you. And then you'll pick a fight rather than create an environment of healing. 10 years later, we're creating an environment of healing because we're healed and we realize the responsibility is not for them to heal us. It's for us to be healed and then to lead them into their healing. Right. And that to me makes pastoring a little bit more fun than trying to control every in and out of their life. You see what I'm saying? So I have to change and create boundaries.
We have to also think about it. Every person is a human being. They have their own will, their own lives, their own emotions, their own mind, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And so just like I have boundaries that I expect for people to respect, other people have boundaries as well that we should respect. And we don't get to choose what their boundaries are. Say, oh, that boundary's stupid. Or, oh, you're just putting up a wall. Maybe that is actually a boundary, a healthy boundary that they need to set for themselves.
Yep.
And we shouldn't overstep those things because it may not be a boundary that I would set for me. Well, you're not them.
Right.
And so I think a lot of arguments come in relationships, whether it be in marital relationships or with, parent-child relationships or relationships, in church. Like that may not be a boundary for you in your life, but if it is a boundary for me, you must respect that.
You gotta respect it.
Yep. I knew as soon as we got married that you had grown up in and around a church environment that did not have any respect for boundaries. When people were calling you at 5 a.m, wanting you to come be over here and play, come over here and do this, come over here and do that. And it's like, why are you calling here? You know what I'm saying? And why is the expectation? And what made me know that there were no boundaries set and not only not respected, but not set on your part, was that you felt obligated to move every time.
When they call.
No matter what.
They didn't pay our bills, none of that.
Yeah.
But they just got on the phone and we were trained to do whatever the church needed.
Right.
Not right by your spouse.
Just be obedient.
Just be obedient.
I was so tired of hearing that. Just be obedient.
Yep.
I'm just like, I don't want to do that, and I shouldn't have to do that. And we have to stop. We have to stop doing those things when people set a boundary, especially in ministry, because people come to ministry for a safe haven, for a safe place, and to say, just be obedient. Yes, be obedient to God. But if I tell you to do something that has nothing to do with your relationship or development with Christ Jesus, and you say, no, I don't want to do that, I have to respect your no.
Yep.
You know what I'm saying?
Yep.
And I can say that from a leadership standpoint because I was on the other end of that.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Coming into the church, just being saved and just being told what to do and saying you have to do it and not having a real reason why I have to and I don't have a choice to say no because now you're taking my opportunity to have my own personal boundaries away. And that's abusive.
And
honestly.
anytime people have to respect your real life, disrespect your real life to get you to something so-called spiritual, then they don't respect you at all.
Yeah.
And because let's just be real, and we'll talk about this later on. The danger of all of that is that I didn't get any benefits other than flattery and a few people flirting with me. And you know what I'm saying? Our marriage was fairly new. I hadn't been married long enough to adjust to not being flattered because I hadn't been around these people that long enough until we got married, right? We got married, then we moved churches because of something a boundary was crossed, basically. That's kind of sad that every church, anyway, whatever. Yeah, that's kind of sad. But anyway, we had to change churches and somewhere where we could feel like we could grow together. Boundaries were crossed too. On my part, because of my response to things, and it was a hole missing in me things was missing in me, and I responded to the flattery. I responded to the violation of my covenant relationship because somebody else didn't value their covenant relationship. And again, I don't want to go too far because people would think whatever they want to think. But at the end of the day, yeah, you may have saw my response, but you didn't see the emails and you didn't see the photos that were sent to me. You know what I'm saying? You may seen my reaction, but at the end of the day, I became accountable for all those actions. I told the truth on myself, and I freed myself, and I got freed by putting myself in a position of accountability with somebody that could help me. And you created something because you, after so many times of that happening, and me just not even, it wasn't always, it wasn't always anything, like people think, but you can be in the wrong conversation, and an emotional affair is just as much as any kind of affair. It's a boundary that is crossed. Yeah. And when you have the wrong conversation with anybody, that is a emotional affair going on, and it is dangerous. It's very dangerous. And so at the end of the day, you have to start posting things up on a computer and on the refrigerator and all this stuff saying something about flattery. I remember it said something about flattery and dealing with that, aspect of it. And it wasn't because I was just all in the streets. It's because I was going to church.
It was reminders to set boundaries that I know you didn't have.
Yeah.
It's like, okay, I can see that you're being taken advantage of because you do not have a single boundary set anywhere with anyone.
With anyone.
You know what I'm saying? Not with people in that you fellowship with in church, not with people on your job, not with pastors, with no one. And it's like, I'm going to give my whole self. Everybody can have all of me all the time.
At any time.
And it's like, this is not going to work. We're not going to make it like this. So I have to find a way to try to not be offensive, to express to you what my boundaries and limitations are, but also because I can see that it's not intentional, but it's because you don't have boundaries, because you didn't grow up knowing and you weren't taught how to set boundaries. Okay, I'm going to use these tools to try to help you to set the boundaries that will alleviate some of these other things from being able to even transpire. Because when the boundaries are there, those are things that, like you said, you're able to sense those things. You're like, I didn't see, you're never going to see those things coming unless you have the appropriate boundaries in place.
Yeah.
Because boundaries will ruffle feathers.
Yeah.
But that's okay.
It's okay.
Because if your intentions toward me are good, at some point your feathers are going to settle down.
Yep.
And you're going to be okay.
You're going to be all right.
And you're going to realize that it's less about you and it's more about me keeping the pieces of myself from being scattered all over the place, so that I can be a whole person.
But isn't it funny and ironic that the people that don't respect your boundaries, demand you to respect theirs, will create a boundary to keep you out and place a demand on it, and even sometimes label you as toxic if you don't respect their boundary in any way or fashion. But watch this. So she says boundaries are actually expectations and needs that help you feel safe and comfortable in your relationships. Expectations in relationships help you stay mentally and emotionally well. Learning when to say no and when to say yes is also an essential part of feeling comfortable when interacting with others. And then it goes into a list of it's just a list of signs that you need boundaries, and this is why people are just many times acting out because they don't know what to do with what they feeling.
Yeah,
and they don't know how to shut themselves down and say, you know what, let me recalibrate here before I destroy some things.
Yeah,
even myself.
Let me take a moment.
Yeah, let me take a minute.
Yeah.
So it says signs that you need boundaries. You feel overwhelmed. You feel resentment toward people for asking for your help.
Yes.
Why you laugh?
Because I can identify. Yeah.
All right. you avoid phone calls and interactions with people who you think might ask for something. That's me. Man. You make I got them phone calls where it's just like you just look at the phone. It's like,
what do they want?
Do I need to pick up? I always ask myself now, I've grown to have boundaries. I always ask myself, how am I feel when I get off the phone? How long is this going to be, and how am I going to feel when I get off the phone? What do they have to say to me that's going to mess up my day?
Yeah.
And it's usually on the day when I really had good prayer too.
And really where that comes from is knowing that you haven't set a boundary in that relationship. So you have the experience with those people to where, okay, I already know I had not set boundaries in relationship with this person. So I know that they are bound to cross a line and say something or do something, because that's how you know you don't have healthy boundaries in relationships with people, is because when you feel worse coming out of a conversation or an interaction with them than you did going in, you do not have appropriate boundaries set with that person. Man. And so if you could see their name pop up on the phone and you feel those feelings before you ever even engage with them, it's because you already know, okay, I don't have the proper boundaries set in this relationship. So even if they are calling about something simple, at some point this conversation is going to go left, and I'm gonna be irritated, and my peace is gonna leave me before I hang up the phone.
Wow. Some
way, somehow. But it's because you already know there's a lack of boundary set in that relationship.
Man. That's good. All right, let's keep moving. So it says, you make comments about helping people and getting nothing in return. People really think that people like us we give a lot. And people think we actually give out of the church. We actually give out of our home. And it's not always money that we just we have. We have it, but they don't understand that we could use it.
It's not like we don't have anything else.
It's not like we don't have anything else to do with it. You know what I mean? I'm grateful that we got a vacation already planned this year, because if not, we would probably give that money away to somebody who we think who need it. You know what I'm saying? So I'm glad I'm glad it's already because I'm tired of not getting a vacation. I'm tired of not taking a break. You know what I'm saying? We deserve that. Yeah. That's a boundary. We deserve a break and a vacation, and we got to give that to ourselves, because giving all our money away to somebody who sometimes don't even seem thankful or grateful, that can break your spirit, man. Because you don't
even need what it is that
you're giving.
We're just used to giving so much. Sometimes you can give something to someone in an area to try to meet a need that they really don't even have. You know what I'm saying? They may be broke right now, but they don't have a need because they had money, but they chose what they wanted to spend it on. Yeah. And now you're meeting something that's not really a need. It's a situation they got themselves into.
Let me say this too. Let's add to another part of that. Sometimes you're meeting a need that you have by doing it, because you want to prove that you're loyal, that you're faithful, and that you got their back at all costs, which teaches some people they can be as irresponsible as they want.
Careless.
As long as they can come back to you, tell you their issues and their problems, and you fix their problems while they go take what they have in their pocket and do what they want to with it. Yeah. And so and Lord knows, just not showing any gratitude toward that, then they try to make it look like you only doing it. They're going to label stuff again. They try to make it look like you're doing it to make a name for yourself. And so, and if that's the case, there are some people who really give. I've had to question myself over the years, like, did you give because you really wanted to help them, or did you give because you wanted them to like you? Like, ultimately, because they didn't always respond right. So it's like, okay, if you're giving to an ungrateful person that you know that's ungrateful, then why are you still giving to an ungrateful person? Is God telling you to do all this giving, or are you giving because you're needy emotionally and you need them to say, because he was a blessing to me, I was able to do such and such and such. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? Like, I always check my motives on everything. Yeah. Not just with people, but with God. Any move that I make, I always check my motives. I'm just conditioned to assess myself like that. Like, what did I do it for? And should I ever do that again? Should I ever do it again? Was this God or was it not? Because it seemed like that if I was to be this kind of pastor, if I was going to be this kind of a person, if I was going to be this kind of a friend or brother or whatever, or just a fellow yokesman in the gospel, if I was going to be this type of person, I would think that something better would come out of it. Yeah. Maybe it was my expectation.
Yes.
That I was given for, and I thought maybe that someone will be grateful for somebody to do something like this, who's not necessarily wealthy, but is willing to make my life, other people's lives better. Because we don't ever hardly hear about anything that we've done well in that area, and we have given a lot.
Yeah,
especially in the last 10 years.
And for me, like it's like, okay, it would be nice, but I don't get as bothered by it because I don't have an expectation. Like if God tells me to move, if he says give this to this person, I'm gonna do it. I'm good. They don't even, yes, you want, because I'm a person who is thankful, and I'm gonna show gratitude to anybody who does anything for me. So you would think that, I guess that's it, other people are going to do that.
Yeah.
But I also know the reality that not everybody's going to do that. So I'm not gonna cry. I'm not gonna fall out on the floor. I'm not gonna be mad with you about it. If God told me to do it, I'm gonna do it. And my satisfaction comes from the fact that I obey God, and that I was able to help because I genuinely just like to help people when I can. There are times when I know in the past where, we have given where I did not necessarily feel like it was, oh, God is telling me to do this. But if you said, okay, you felt led, okay, I'm gonna do it. But if they don't say nothing, I don't want to hear about them not having gratitude about, because let me just be at peace with the fact that once I say, okay, fine, let's do it, I'm done with it emotionally.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Emotionally.
Because for me, that's a boundary that I have if I'm going to give to people. Like I can't attach.
Because if you don't set a boundary, their unthankfulness will create a trigger.
Right. And it will harden my heart towards something that I actually love to do. So I'm not going to base how I feel about what I do for people based on their response. You know what I'm saying? And if God tells me to give to somebody who is an ungrateful person, okay, I have to reconcile that with God in the moment up front
before you even give it.
So that my emotional boundary is already set, that it doesn't matter what comes out of it, as long as I know that I've done, and I feel good about it. That's why I always feel good when I'm able to sow a seed into somebody's life, because I don't have an expectation, because that's an emotional boundary for me, is that I don't want to have an expectation or a tied to that emotionally, because I don't want to be cranky if you didn't say thank you, or if you didn't say, you know what I'm saying?
I want to be able to be thankful.
Yeah, I'm thankful
because I was able to do it.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and that's it.
That's it.
And leave it alone.
You know what I'm saying?
Because it's not like we haven't been blessed by God because... Sorry, y'all. It's not because I apologize. I was about to get down. But it's not because I forgot what I was going to say now. That music threw me off.
You said it's not because it's not that we haven't been blessed by God.
Yeah, we've been blessed by God to do this and accomplish this.
Right.
We don't want for anything. You know what I'm saying? And you have to learn to be thankful for not for people's responses. Because just like I said, just talking about boundaries, just the definition. At the end of the day, people will be offended because you bless them.
Yeah.
Just as much as they do if you ignore them.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? They will be offended regardless. If you do it from your heart, they will be offended. If you do it for yourself, selfish reasons, they'll be offended. They'll be offended if you, you let somebody else in and you let them in. They'll be offended sometimes if you invite them in and to hold them accountable for some things that maybe that they need to be held accountable for. People just get offended. There's a spirit of offense, and people love to hang out there. And we all have to be careful of it because we're all subject to the spirit of offense if we don't have the right mindset going into the relationship, into the situation, or whatever it is that God is telling us to do, which means that we will end up making negative comments about helping people and not getting anything in return. I'm not asking you to give me money back. No. I just would like for you to be thankful.
If I give you something, I'm not going to say anything else to you about
it.
Ever. Like
Yeah.
you will not hear me bring it back up.
Yeah.
Because I'm done with it.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Once I release it, I'm thankful that I'm able to release it. I pray. You know what I'm saying? I never release a seed into anybody's life without praying over the seed and praying that they do well with it and that it helps me to need and that they can multiply and whatever God wants to do with it, especially if he's told me to give it. And I'm done with it. I'm not bringing it back for what? Because that's a boundary that I have set for myself so that I can remain emotionally healthy.
Yep.
Because bringing it back up is only going to bother me, irritate me, trigger me. You know what I'm saying? It's going to make me feel some type of way. And then I can't feel good about doing something that I really feel good about doing.
Another thing that this talks about, sometimes people like us, we start building walls in this area because we feel like we're being taken advantage of. And so like your story, you may be broke, and then I come to your rescue and I bless you with no questions, showing no proof or evidence of why you are broke. You know what I'm saying? Or in this situation. But I use my finances like I don't need them to bless you because God said it or just because I want to. You know what I'm saying? Let's just be real. God don't always tell us.
Yeah.
He doesn't. But if he's giving you yours and you do it for someone else, you do it because you love people and we've been broke for a long time before we got to this point in our life. We don't want to see other people. If somebody was to bless us, we'd be like, oh my God, I can't believe that they cared enough. You know, especially in the dividends that we give people many times. It's like, man, nobody gives like this. Nobody's ever given to us like this in this, you know, and with no strings attached. So we would be probably, you know, going crazy to have somebody bless us that way. But we cannot put everybody else in that same box and mentality because they don't have it.
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
That expectation, your personal expectation for what you would do on
somebody else. Yeah.
And then when they don't react,
then you feel like they're wrong.
But you put that expectation on them.
Exactly.
You know what I'm saying?
Yep.
And that's really not fair.
Yeah. So another reason why we need boundaries is because you feel burned out. A lot of people burned out because they feel burned out. The next one is you frequently daydream about dropping everything and disappearing. Oh my God, Lord, how many times? How many times I say I just want to go somewhere and just run away. Yes. You know what I'm saying? That sounds so good, especially in the pastoral ministry. Sometimes it can get rough. It doesn't mean that we're not committed to our call. It doesn't mean that we don't love God. It just means that it gets hard. It gets really, really hard, and you can't say all the time. We don't have outlets all the time or where we can go for the hard times that we have, because you can't go to your members, which is a boundary that I had to learn. Yes. That's a boundary I had to learn. I can't go to my members and say what I'm frustrated about or say what's going on with me. I have to find somebody else or go to God. And many times, let's just be real, God is all I have. God is all I have. I have to go to God and deal with what I'm dealing with, because other than that, I'm going to want to, drop everything I'm doing and everything I'm responsible for, including sometimes family, and disappear. The next thing is the reason why you need the boundaries is because you have no time for yourself. None. I knew you would like that one. Let's run into this real quick because we almost about to be done in a moment. The reason people don't respect your boundaries. Number one, you don't take yourself seriously. Man, you don't hold people accountable. And people, can I say this? Holding people accountable is not judging or abusive.
Right.
Especially if the persons love you and care about you and want the best for you. Holding people accountable is not a negative thing. It's a very positive thing. It may not feel good to be held accountable, but it is necessary to be held accountable.
Let me just say specifically here about accountability. When it comes to boundaries, I have to hold you accountable. Number one, I have to have expressed what my boundaries are, or if you haven't if I haven't had the opportunity to express, because maybe this is a new boundary that I didn't know and that you've crossed. But my holding you accountable has to do with you having crossed a boundary that I have for me. I don't have to hold you accountable about whatever way you choosing to live your life. That's your business. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
I just have to hold you accountable because you may not want to talk to me about that, and it may not be my business, and that's fine. But if something about your life is crossing a boundary in your relationship with me, then I have to hold you accountable about that specifically. Just wanted to clarify that, because sometimes people feel like when you're saying hold them accountable, it means for what they're doing and how they're living their life. Only when in regards to your relationship with me, I have to hold you accountable for those things that affect me and the boundaries that I have for my life.
Wow, that's it right there. All right, so excuse me, you guys, my sinuses are messing up. You apologize for setting boundaries. Oh my God, you set them. Now you want to comfort everybody around you because they're not happy with it.
Yeah. Or because you may start off apologizing for it as you're trying to give the boundaries because you're afraid of how they might respond to it or how they might feel about it.
You got to get over that. You got to be firm on your boundaries.
Because you can't be assertive.
And then apologize
and apologetic at the same time.
Yeah.
Because you're not doing anything to somebody.
I'm gonna go over here and then I don't mean no harm. You know what I'm saying? We'll get together at some point.
That's ridiculous. It's absurd.
Because you might not get together with them. That might not even be your real desire.
Because what you're doing in that moment is setting an expectation for them.
Yes.
That goes against the boundary that you're trying to set.
Well, they letting you know that you really tell them that the boundary is not permanent.
Or that
the boundary is
in real life.
There's not. It's temporary. That basically, I'm really just acting out right now. But I need you.
Right.
I need to make it look like I'm serious.
And then 2 seconds later, when a person crosses that boundary because they didn't take you seriously, because you didn't take you seriously, then you're upset and you're overwhelmed and want to run away. Exactly.
Yeah. Man. So here it is. All right. You apologize for setting boundaries. You allow too much flexibility. I'm guilty of this. That's why I'm going to talk. I'm guilty of this.
Go for it.
Because I set boundaries, but certain people get in.
Mm-hmm. And they know it.
And they know every
single
time that if they call, text.
It's predictable.
Yeah.
Every single time.
Yeah, it's predictable. If I set a boundary and I go away, I can tell you who's going to ring my phone. I can tell you who's going to text me. And I'm talking about people that I'm setting that boundary, that I'm not setting boundaries with. I'm talking about people that is clear I'm setting the boundary with. Mm-hmm. And I promise you, every single time I can name them and claim them, and I can almost tell you how long they're gonna wait before they text me. Almost every single time, they just want to know, does this apply to me? Mm-hmm. and it's only because over time, I've struggled with setting boundaries. Mm-hmm. And so with certain people, they've always gotten through their little crack. Mm-hmm. And I believe, here's what I believe that when I let them through the crack, and this is just me, I'm not saying it's what they did. This is what I feel like. My thoughts on the thing is that once you let one person in, that other person go tell everybody, oh, I got a chance to talk to him. That's what I, you know what I'm saying? He ain't quiet with me. He may be doing something. You know
what that does for the people who actually heard you and respected the boundary? It then makes them feel like this wasn't an actual boundary that you set for yourself, a healthy boundary you set for yourself. It was just, I don't want to deal with you, or this is just a wall, or this. Then that's when it becomes
a problem,
viewed as a negative thing by people, because it's like if you're not clear and consistent with your boundaries, then it will, and you can't even get upset when it makes this person over here feel some type of way about your boundary, and it makes it feel like, oh, you're just doing something. You said this was for you, but it must not be. It must be against me because this person didn't have to respect the boundary.
That person
didn't have to respect the boundary. Well, why is it just me? It must be something about me. And then you set yourself up for people to, because those are the things one of the things that make boundaries offensive is when it doesn't, it's not across the board.
Just like one of my former pastors, one of the ladies in the choir told me one time, I talk to pastor every day. I was like, well, when I call him, he'll never answer the phone.
Because he's too busy.
because he's too busy.
Yeah.
But then that person said, I call him and talk to him every day.
It made you feel some type of
And it
way.
made me feel some kind of time. Yeah, it made me feel some type of way. And I'm like, wait a minute. What good is there something wrong with me? You know what I'm saying? When probably not. It's just that person knew that they, no matter what rule was in place, they have the flexibility of coming in and out of the pastor's life anytime they wanted, every given day. Watch this. So watch this. You allow too much flexibility. This is why people don't respect your boundaries. You speak in uncertain terms. Nobody know what you're trying to say. You know what I'm saying? You all over the place. You know, you want to be friends, and then you don't want to. You okay, but you're not okay. You know, you're struggling, but you're faithful. Yeah, you know what I'm saying? Like we don't know what you're talking about.
I want to talk, but I don't want to talk.
Yeah, I want to talk to certain people. You'll see me talking to Dr. Kim, but I just don't feel like talking to Pastor B. I don't like the way he talk. I'm gonna talk to his wife. You know what I'm saying? Like, and let's be honest, we've seen that people they switch up. And one minute they just I'm in a spirit of silence. I'm in isolation. And next thing you know, they talking to everybody but you. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's funny. So anyway, this is why people don't respect your boundaries. Here we go. You haven't verbalized your boundaries. They are all in your head.
Right.
All of your boundaries in your head. Watch this. Mm-hmm. And you assume that stating your boundaries once is enough. Sometimes people, they need repetition. Mm-hmm. They need to hear you say it over and over again. Yeah. If they come across your boundary, you need to reinforce it. Nope, this is not the way this is going to be. Yeah. I told you that. Remember when I said this? Remember, January 1st, I said I was going to start. I was going to start. Yeah. And then here you go again. Coming on, here it is.
And it's important that when you have to repeat a boundary to someone, it's like, because this is the second time I've had to say it, or the third time I've had to say it, doesn't mean that you can say it in a less respectful and a less offensive way than you said it the first time, just because I'm tired of saying it. But you still have to express it in a way that's not intentionally offensive.
Yes.
Because sometimes when people continue to cross the boundaries, it's like you maybe have to be a little bit more assertive when you have to repeat it for like the 5th, 6th, 7th, 8th time.
Yes.
But not offensive still when you because then if you blow up and you just go completely to the left, mm-hmm. they're not going to take you seriously then either. That's
right. Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
It's an extreme.
Yeah, they're not going to take you seriously.
And we'll talk about that later on. We'll talk about, porous, I believe that's what it is, porous boundaries. We'll talk about rigid boundaries, which are extreme. Mm-hmm. And then we'll talk about healthy boundaries. We'll do that next week. And we're getting ready to go now. But I want to give you one more on this. And it says, you assume that people will figure out what you want and need based on how you act when they violate a boundary. Let me tell y'all something. I don't care how you act. I've done it. I've been offended. I feel like I've been crossed. I feel like I can't trust. I feel like my actions pulling away means that you understand why I'm pulling away. Some people think that's just an act of immaturity.
You're just being childish.
You just being childish. Like pulling away and going into isolation and not talking to folks and choosing who you're going to deal with and all of this stuff and all that, that's just a little petty way.
Silent treatment.
Yeah, giving people the silent treatment, all that. That's just petty and immature. You are not growing. You're not even created a boundary. You're creating a wall. You're building a prison, for an emotional prison for your own self to live in, and you think people care. Let me go ahead and tell you, these days, nobody cares. Nobody. Not believers or unbelievers. None of us care. You know why? No. We all got stuff going on in our life. We all got decisions we have to make. We all have our own share of problems and struggles. You think we worried about you isolating yourself from us? We don't care. Yeah. Go ahead. Because the rest of us is laughing, eating pizza, going to the movies, we hanging out. You know what I'm saying? We encouraging each other. We trying to strengthen each other. We're growing in the faith together. All of that. You just over there by yourself. Yeah. In your own little world, thinking that somebody going to come and babysit you over there. We don't care.
Yeah, you can never assume that somebody understands even or knows sometimes when they've crossed a boundary, sometimes people don't know. So it is okay, and it's a very healthy thing to do, is to let people know when they have crossed a boundary, because it's not fair to have this in your head. Number one, to expect people to know what your boundaries are without having expressed them. Number two, to expect people to always understand. Some people intentionally cross boundaries and they know when they've crossed boundaries.
They know when they cross.
But there's some people who may not necessarily understand that what they did, they may understand what your boundary is, but they may not understand that their behavior in a certain moment was them crossing that boundary.
Right.
And so sometimes you have to map out for people what that looks like and say, hey, I really didn't like the way that this conversation went down that we had, because, the conversation started here and then you said this and it felt like you said that just to be hurtful. You know what I'm saying? And for me, that's a boundary in conversation in my relationships with people, is that I'm not going to say anything to intentionally hurt you, and I would, expect the same thing in return. But if that happens in a conversation, then I'm going to tell you so that you have the opportunity to know that you crossed my boundary, and so that we can work through it and move on. If not, if somebody does something across a boundary and then you just go and have a silent temper tantrum about it and pout about it, you can't expect them to care. And then you get more frustrated when nobody's paying attention to it. And when they just keep on moving. They see you.
They see you.
But it's not their responsibility to come to you and ask you what's wrong.
Nope.
Because you are the one that knows you've been offended because your boundary was crossed. It is your responsibility to let them know and give them the opportunity to fix that part of your relationship with them. Throwing a tantrum and expecting someone to respond
to that. Especially, let's be real. Let's be real. We have kids. You think we care about a grown man or grown woman throwing a tantrum? We got kids who throw tantrums. We tell our children no, and they get mad at us. You think we worried about you? When we got, I'm just being real.
Yeah.
Let's just put it out on the table. You think we're worried about you?
Yeah.
When we're trying not to lose our children because we have to say no.
Right.
You think we're gonna cry and miss you in a relationship with you, in fellowship with you, in connection with you, when we got children that we have to say no to on a regular basis, who don't always like us saying no.
Yeah.
And you want us to
and
stop.
It can be frustrating when you're in relationship with someone who doesn't know how to express that a boundary has been crossed, or they refuse to because they feel like you should come to them. That is such a crazy backwards mindset, that I'm offended, but you need to come to me. If I know that I've offended you, then yes, I will come to you. I have a responsibility to come to you. But if I don't know that I've offended you, or I don't know that you just don't like something that I did or said, you can tell me that. You know what I'm saying?
You can tell me
you
that.
have a responsibility. If you're going to have an issue with it, that you're going to hold against me, you have a responsibility to come to me and to give me the opportunity to respond to you in a proper and appropriate way.
Say that again.
But if you don't.
If you know that I've offended you.
Yeah. If you know that I have done something that you consider to be offensive towards you, and you know that you're not going to let it go, and that you're going to keep carrying it and feel some type of way and
just
treat
sizzling
me,
in it,
and it's going to have create an issue ongoing in our relationship, because you're the one who knows you're offended.
Yes.
You're the one who knows that your boundary has been crossed. You are the one with the responsibility to come to the person who has crossed the boundary and offended you and tell them what it is they did to offend you or to cross your boundary, so that they will understand that, that they may not understand that behavior was them crossing this boundary that you set, especially if you have not made that boundary clear. But you can't expect the other person to you can't be mad because they're going on with life. Because they don't know that they need to pause and fix this with you, because you won't say something.
People like that really do get angry. When your life does not stop, you keep being blessed, you go on vacation,
because
you go
what are you
do what you're supposed to do. All that, and you don't stop to say, I see you done got distant from me. I see that you are not speaking to me. Listen, especially somebody like me who had to learn to establish boundaries, and I still struggle with it. I'll be honest, I still struggle with it because I just love people.
Yeah.
Right. So I can easily spend a week or a month or 6 months worried about somebody who's not talking to me.
Yes, you can.
I can. I really can. I can spend that. But again, during my break last semester and just, letting God speak to me and letting him teach me and becoming healthier and a better, I had to leave the sanctuary for a little while and go do something else. And during that time is when God began to build me up. And when he was like, let me know what not to pay attention to, what not to focus on, what not to do. Create this boundary. Don't worry about correcting everything. Everything is not necessary for you to correct. Just let it be. If it's wrong, let it be wrong for a minute. If they're wrong, let them be wrong for a minute. Don't just go in and just correct everything. Let them act how they gonna act. I'm gonna do something new in y'all life. And he's doing it right now. And he said, eventually, if they ever get to the point where they respect you, and really what going to cause them to respect you, watch this, is consistency. Mm-hmm. And you is what's going to let them see that the way they reacting to you when they don't like something about you, it doesn't work anymore.
Yeah.
That's the key. Is never letting people see you respond or react the same way. That's how you become a believable person when you set a boundary. Mm-hmm. That even though they may not like it, you don't try to spend all your time defending yourself with somebody who is intentionally wanting to misunderstand you.
Yep.
That's the bottom line. It is, again, people, it is not your responsibility to change somebody's response to your boundary. It is your responsibility to hang on to your boundary, to mean it, to be firm and stand on it. And if you lose a friend, then they probably was not a friend in the beginning. Dr. Kim shared that today. I'm really grateful for that because it's important to understand you will find out who people really are. Mm-hmm. Oh my God, that's probably the most important thing that's been said this entire day. You will find out who people really are when you establish a boundary.
And I think a lot of times people don't do it because they're afraid that they're going to lose people in relationships. And sometimes you will lose people in relationships. Sometimes you will. But sometimes
it's necessary.
Yeah, if they need to be gone, they need to be gone. But you don't always lose people when you set those boundaries. Sometimes it makes people reevaluate their intentions. And it makes them sometimes just understand you better so that they can have it can really actually bring you closer in relationship to some people who were in the relationship with you for the right reasons in the first place. They may just not have been operating in the way that you needed or wanted them to because they just weren't clear on what your boundaries were. Right. And that wasn't necessarily their fault. But once you start setting those boundaries, which we should do, up front as much as we can in relationships. Because sometimes it's not like you come to the relationship and you meet somebody and you have a list. These are all my boundaries. Yeah. It's like, okay, when something bothers you in the beginning of it, don't let things just keep sliding without saying, I don't really like that. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. It's certain ways that people, and I told this to a women's group a long time ago. Like it's certain ways that like I like to play like everybody else, but certain things I don't play about. If you play with me about something I don't like to play about, then I'm gonna tell you, you know what I'm saying? I can play all day, but don't play with me like that. You know what I'm saying? Or don't play with me about that because I don't play like that. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. Like when Kiana was little, you used to let her swing, just hit you upside the head and slap you in the face and all kinds of stuff when she was little, and it was cute because she was little. But no, you know what I'm saying? I didn't want to even start that because one day it's not going to be cute and I'm not going to jail because I'm swung back on you. But, so that's a boundary, which you're not going to do, up front. Yeah, and so you learn, and she learned real quick, don't do that to me, and she never did it again. And
we definitely wasn't in agreement with that,
right? And I don't think she'll do it. We were
definitely not in agreement.
Oh,
she hurt my baby out.
I hurt her feelings, probably her face, but she'll be all right, and she loves me so much. to this day because she knew what boundary not to cross.
Man.
But I mean, you can't let people get away with things in relationships up front that bother you and that cross a boundary for you, and then get mad every time they do it later on. Well, you gave them you set the expectation without saying something. That this was okay.
Yes.
And sometimes, you just have to stop and be like, hey, I know last time you did this, I didn't say anything, or the first couple of times, like I was trying to see where this was going, but I don't really like this. And for me, this is a boundary that's being crossed.
Yeah.
And it's okay to say that. And if people really like you or really care about you or really love you, like they say they do, they are going to respect your boundaries.
Yes.
Even if it's hard for them to, they got to take a moment and
step back.
Breathe and realize that you're not saying you don't love them, but it's like, I just need you to operate in relationship with me in this way because this is what I need. And whatever you need me to do in relationship with you, I need to respect that as well. But I can't respect it if you don't say it and let me know.
Which basically means that every relationship needs to be customized.
Right.
Because my relationship with you, I mean, you're my wife, and there's certain things that I can't do. One, biblically, I can't do them. Two, personally, I can't do them. And three, it's just some things I just don't need to do. You know what I'm saying? My relationship with Kiana, there's a lot of things I can do. But as she gets older, it changed. When she was a baby, I could bathe her.
Yeah.
At this point, me bathing her, unless it's something wrong with her, like physically, that would be that would be considered as disrespectful.
Yeah,
that's body,
crossing a boundary.
Same body, different age. Washing her as a baby is different than washing her as a grown woman.
Right.
There are certain things about her body I don't need to see at this age, and I'm her father. Right. So at the end of the day, there's boundaries. That's just in your home. With people, it's the same. I think. Let me say this, and then I'm really gonna be done. I'm really gonna be done. I know that. I hope y'all are really enjoying this because I am. And this could be a 2-hour podcast easy, but probably 4 hours. But I don't know if I have enough space. Anyway, at the end of the day, because we are going like we've almost gone an hour and a half almost already now. So we gotta stop.
Yes.
So at the end of the day, I think sometimes people don't know you about it. I remember one time when you got the job here in Memphis, and somebody thought that they know you, thought that they could have access to the actual amount of money that you made, and they got their feelings hurt. Not because you were mean, but they didn't know enough about you to know we cool. But my mama don't know how much money I make. You know what I'm saying? Like for real. Like unless you live at this address, nobody knows how much money I make. And to you, it's disrespectful for someone to ask you how much money you make.
Yeah, because your boundaries are based on your personal values, your personal thought. You know what I'm saying? A boundary for me may not be a boundary for somebody else.
Yeah,
and that's fine.
Yeah,
but because that's a boundary for me, I would never ask somebody else. But they may just be like, "Hey, I make $700,000 a year. Okay, let me get a little something." But I'm not gonna ask you that.
Well, according to you, that person even said, "It's me, though. It's me."
Yeah, but it's like I think when you're close in relationship with people, they feel like. But that's the thing. People feel like if you're close to me, there shouldn't be any boundaries.
Yeah.
But that's unrealistic.
It's unrealistic.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Because, and I'll say this is kind of unrelated, but just about that kind of conversation, it is known fact that that conversations surrounding money and asking people how much they make and knowing how much people who are close to you make, it can cause issues in relation and it's not intentional, but there's some information that people, for whatever reason, however they process it, they just can't There's research done on it, and statistically speaking, unless you are helping me in some way financially, like helping me with my finances. Like there are people that I know how much money they make, not because I asked them, but they asked me to help them with their finances and their budget.
Right.
Then that it's necessary for me to know how much you make in order to help you with your budget.
And we've done that, taking the Dave Ramsey Financial.
Right.
We released that information because the class required us to.
Right. But if there's no reason, if we just cool, there's no reason for you to just, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
I mean, there's colleagues that I have that I've worked with, and it's like, they know, I know how much money they make. That, do they know how much? I don't know. But people just share things with me. But at the same time, it's like, there's got to be some reason, you know what I'm saying? And so that boundary, it's not like, oh, I set this boundary for you, but not for everyone else. No, that's a boundary across the board.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Well, like you said, my mama don't know.
And she would never ask. She's never, ever asked me that. And she would never
because
ask.
she knows you.
Right.
And she knows that's just does not the way we do things.
And some people don't know because that may not be a boundary for them. And so they assume that it's not. And so it doesn't make them bad or because that, it's just everybody's boundaries are not the same.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
I may, like physical touch, I may be like, can talk to you and laugh and just slap.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? And somebody else may feel like, I'm going to need you to laugh without touching me. Mm-hmm. You know what I'm saying? That's a boundary for them. I may not care.
Yeah. Let's flip that. And this is just to close out. Let's flip that. One Sunday I was up preaching and, everybody was testifying about this and that. And I thought I wasn't in the text message thread. I was ignorant of some information that you had shared with some people about the raise that you had gotten. Mm-hmm. So I'm thinking that you told them the amount, because that's different than what you actually make, right? So I'm sitting there and I get in church one Sunday. I get in church one Sunday and I just blurt out how much the raise was. And when I got done preaching, there was a text message from your mom, my mother-in-law, saying, you just told everybody the amount of, you know what I'm saying? That's obviously a boundary. And it wasn't that I was trying to cross your boundary or do anything. I literally, when I said, oh my God, I didn't even know that you didn't tell them. That's why knowledge is very important. Yeah. When you know something, it establishes the boundaries that's necessary, or you'll end up crossing something out of ignorance. Yeah. And thinking
and it's important to express those things when they're crossed so that it's not like she was trying to beat you up.
No, she wasn't trying to beat me up.
He was like, he don't even realize, because that's what she said. He don't even realize. I was like, he probably don't. But
I didn't know what I said.
She said it to you. And that's the good thing about relationship, because you could have taken that a different way.
I could have got offended by her correcting me and holding me accountable.
But it's just showing you, this is a boundary. Yeah. You probably don't want to, you know what I'm saying?
See, I know she loves us, and I know she know people.
Exactly.
You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So even though I said that she loves me as her son-in-law, but she also loves her daughter, she don't want people to think, those folks just got money. It's not that we should be ashamed of it.
Or that it's a boundary that they can cross.
Yes, or something that they can cross.
Ready. Yeah. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like, you don't want people to feel like this is a boundary that you can cross anytime you get ready.
Yes.
And so that was expressing, and that's good that you said that, because sometimes we may see things that has crossed a boundary for someone that we know, and it's okay. Like, even if, you know what I'm saying, if you have the right relationship with that person, to say, hey, I think you might have hurt their feelings when you said that.
Yeah.
Or, hey, I think they seem like they, I saw a change in their demeanor when you spoke about this. Yeah. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
That's okay.
Yep.
Even if I'm wrong. Mm-hmm. And most of the time, if you know the person, you're right. And even if you go to them and then they're like, no, I wasn't offended.
You already know.
Just take into account.
Sometimes
if someone
people
close to both of you says, hey, I think you crossed a boundary, it's important to take that into consideration and to try not to cross that boundary again, even if the person, because people are sometimes afraid to say, you did cross a boundary.
Some people don't want to hurt you, even though you may have hurt them.
Yeah.
So they're like, no, I'm not going to say, I'm not even going to admit, I'm just going to let it go. Yeah. Or I'm gonna internalize it, and one day it explode into my wrath. But
Right. Yeah. We don't want any of that wrath explosion.
Right. But it's just this is a very powerful conversation, man. We gotta stop, man. It's like 5 minutes into an hour and a half. This is Dr. Kim and I. This is our life. This is what we do. We talk like this, and we've been talking like this for 18 years.
Yeah.
The mental stimulation, intellectual stimulation that I get from her is very powerful. So I know you guys are going to enjoy this season of the Apostles Corner, and we can talk about boundaries until we didn't even get through half the stuff that I was ready to talk about. So if you can only imagine what you got today, come back next week for the Apostles Corner. Tell somebody what we're talking about. Share this with some friends. Share this with a family member, some neighbors, so they can understand you better. It may actually create an opportunity to have those hard conversations that are very necessary to create a life that you can feel safe in a world that you can settle down, anxiety free, chaos free, whatever is debilitating your life right now. Boundaries will create a safe place for you to live in. And you don't have to walk around defending yourself, proving points, or, trying to shame people because they're crossing your boundary. And then you'll be believable also simply because you're able to just live out your boundary without trying to hurt someone, for crossing it. And you can correct them when they cross it and be just as cool and calm and loving as possible and still keep moving. So I think that's what's necessary for all of us. I've even changed my style of preaching for the most part to, you talked to me about the way I sounded one time when I preached, and it was kind of like this. I don't recognize the power of my voice. Sometimes when I get excited and passionate, then it sounds like I'm yelling. So people with a low or introvert demeanor can be very, very irritated with me because I'm actually intentionally being mean.
Not because of what you're saying.
It's because of the way I'm saying it. And so it can sound fussy. So I'm learning to be more conversational, even in my delivery. Now, some people may say, well, you lost your anointing. You lost it. No, I'm trying to reach people.
Your anointing is not in a screen.
Right.
Let's be clear.
I'm trying to reach somebody who would never understand a word that I'm saying or would shut down emotionally if I'm screaming.
Yeah.
Now, there's an anointing that comes on you that expresses itself in a different way. Absolutely. But if you have been able to connect with that individual who don't need the scream all the way through the sermon, then they'll go with you when you when you do a little hooping.
Yep.
And so I've learned that. And so I intentionally teach, even though hoop is in me. And it lives there. But if I can get somebody and empower them rather than to pretend that and make it look like we have power.
Right.
And just by teaching them and covering them and praying for them and loving on them, then they'll be able to accept me more. Sometimes we feel rejected because of our presentation of ourselves.
Right.
Not because of people not liking us. We just be too much sometimes. So even though you may be ADHD like me, you may have to put some boundaries on yourself, some restrictions on all of you. I may be able to give all of me to Dr. Kim and Kiana, and I can't give all of me to them. They get tired of me. They get tired of me. So I have to, I have to learn. I get tired of me. Yeah, I get tired of me. Excuse me, y'all. Anyway, we're gonna go, y'all. Thank you so much for joining us. This is Dr. Kim, my co-host, and me. I'm Brian A. Harris, your podcast host of the Apostles Corner. We'll see you guys next week.